In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
We gotta talk about this book. Which book is
This book slaps.
it? Book 11.
We did it,
Book
you guys.
11.
Book 11. We have a bunch of stuff we got to do when we're starting a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
We gotta talk about the cover.
Yes, so let's do that first.
Yeah.
Nothing is what it seems. The Forgotten.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm
Yeah.
stumped.
It's nothing is what it seems. That's the stupid quote on there. He's turning into a jaguar. It looks pretty good. The book is called The Forgotten. I don't remember why it's called that. Oh, I do know why. Actually, the title makes perfect sense.
I thought you were making a joke
I
about
wasn't. I
not
just
knowing
thought that too.
because you forgot. Yeah.
I forgot. No, that was a genuine forgetting. Oh, wow. So there's some extra text on the inside of the original
Ooh.
book.
Is it from the book?
Yeah. But one part that isn't from the book is it says, "Here, kitty, kitty." We won't be getting to this text until like 2 or 3 episodes from now.
Which of these morphs? I feel like the third step of the morph is always the best.
The third step of the morph is the money morph shot. The money.
Yeah.
It's definitely
It's
like.
have you ever seen the art, like the furry chart?
Sounds familiar.
Let me get it. So here you got your human. This is a Neko. It's basically just a human with cat ears and a tail. We're still not furry. We're starting to get some cat-like facial features going on here, and maybe some claws. And this is borderline furry. And then we get to pretty furry. It's not that there's necessarily fur on the skin, but it's colored where the fur would be. You know?
Yeah.
And so now we've got visible fur, but we've still got human boobs. And now
confusing.
We're losing the humanity, and now we're just fully naked. It's basically just an animal on its hind legs, maybe with a little swell at the chest or something if it's a girl. And then it's just a cat.
Yeah, so I think there are stages between furry and cat.
I don't know that there are stages between furry and cat.
I really don't know that there are. Yeah,
I just want to see more of a height change. I guess it's like more of an Animorphs transformation.
You think that there's something between furry and cat that's like just shorter.
Well,
I don't know what we call it.
In the geological record, there's room for a missing link.
I think I just want to see the full Animorphs
Missing link in the furry chain. Okay.
I wish actually this is the progression that the Animorphs covers follow.
So these books begin where they so often begin, with us doing a 3-sentence.
I want to maybe just do like a bird's eye view quick of how we felt.
Tobias eye?
Yeah,
Sure.
Tobias eye. I know I saw some things about book 11 leading up that made me think like, oh, maybe it's going to be kind of a dud, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I liked it a lot.
And I've never liked Jake more than in this book.
I liked him in 6 a lot. Book 6 was awesome.
I think I've continued to be
You just like Jake
won over
more and more.
by-
You wish book 6 Jake was dead.
I'm glad he made it out.
Who wants to 3-sentence it? Is it my turn?
I did 3 sentences last time.
It might be
so I'll
my
pass
turn
on.
to 3-sentence.
I think it's my turn to 3-sentence.
Oh, okay. Then Eddie would be 1 and I'd be 2.
Tobias discovers that some sort of craft seems to have crash landed at a local grocery store. Period. While investigating, the gang discover the craft, jam themselves in it, and go on depending on how you look at it, 1 or 2 adventures. Period. In the end, nothing happens. Period.
Yeah, that's factual. Okay, 2 sentences coming from Chris. You ready? Coming in hot. I totally was thinking about this instead of checking my phone during that break. You know that feeling when you wished you had just stayed home and read a good book rather than hijacking an experimental alien ship, crash landing in the jungle, and getting killed by your worst enemy? Yeah, I know that feeling too. And boy, howdy, this book's that.
That's 2 sentences?
I guess.
Yeah.
That's how I
It was
write
a question and a response.
Yeah.
Call and answer.
I'm going to keep it very simple. Time gets weird, and the Animorphs end up in the rainforest.
Yeah.
That does not count. You
What's
did
wrong
nothing.
with that?
Eddie did nothing. Eddie didn't do his homework. Eddie is trying to pass off some bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's worse than nothing is what it seems.
Revise.
There you
One
go.
sentence. Time gets weird. The Animorphs go to the jungle, and Jake dies.
Yes! That's it. That
Okay.
is it.
That's what was missing.
That is 100% it. This book starts off as so many do.
1:22 p.m.
In chapter 1 at 1:22 p.m. Yeah. We have timestamps, you guys. Stuff is going to be happening in real time. And as far as I'm aware, there's only one thing that I'm going to have to ask if it was a mistake to you two later on. I don't know if we're getting to it tonight. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this time stuff. We come in. My name is Jake. Can't tell you my last name or where I'm from. That would just help the Yerks. Who gives a shit? We're doing all the same stuff again. He's just hyping us up.
It's just rehashing
Just
of general.
your usual rehashing and Yerk bashing.
But you know what? This is maybe my favorite cold open yet.
That's true.
Because what's Jake doing? While he's thinking all this, he's
Yes.
square
He's
dancing.
square dancing in gym class.
Yes. With
Which I remember
Rachel.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the teacher was real weird. She actually insisted that they pair up. It was kind of creepy.
All right, cousins, stand together.
Well, it is a square dance. We need to make it traditional. Who here's related?
Yeah, that teacher, not on our Animorphs. No.
They have like a boombox going with the CD in there, and he describes the music as having a screaming cat fiddle in
Yep.
it, which I really liked.
I like that. Now,
yeah.
Promenade. There's an Animaniacs bit that's sudden square dancing. I don't remember, and it's like, now swing your partner round and round and throw them down onto the ground.
Oh my god, I remember
Now,
that.
promenade.
Yeah, that word's awesome.
Jake describes himself as walking like a big honking goober, which felt new to his voice.
Honking goober.
Goober, it's in all caps.
It's a strong choice.
It really is.
Yeah, that's definitely how he wrote it in his diary at home.
Yes, with the fuzzy pink key and like the pen.
I looked like a big honking goober today.
You wouldn't have believed it, diary.
And Rachel is teasing him. And he's like basically thinking to himself, well, at least it's just Rachel who I'm too scared of to actually fight with.
Yeah.
But then his worst nightmare
comes in?
happens.
Yeah.
The person he likes not a lot. It's a person he hates.
Actually, person he really kind of likes.
Oh, sorry. He said, like, in another book, he was like, I like her, I guess. And I was confused.
No, we've got I really kind of like.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
wait.
you know what I mean.
I kind of, it's like a modifier that could mean not really. Like, I kind of like
I like her
cola.
in a kind of way. And that kind of way is like.
I'm lost. Let's move on.
What is Jake doing?
He's galumphing. Eddie, I was just
Galumphing.
fucking getting to that.
I was
He's not-
thinking about to tee you up, Chris. Cassie's having fun though.
No,
she's enjoying watching.
She thinks it's very funny. She laughs. He was worried she was gonna like have pity for him, and that's the thing that Jake can't stand the most. Honestly, is someone's pity. So he'd have had to kill her in that moment.
Like he almost killed Rachel a page back by threatening to throw her into a wall.
Yeah, he's like, I swung my partner round and round and considered swinging her into the wall.
Yeah.
But that would have been murder.
Cassie's laughing though, and Jake says, "What could I do?" I started laughing too, and I just imagined the most forced laugh.
Yeah, the grin that accompanies the laugh took like 5 minutes to fade in.
Yeah.
So then Jake says, "Let's see you, do-si-do," and he throws Rachel out of the circle,
presumably into a wall,
and he pulls Cassie into it. And Cassie, who did not think this was going to happen, she uses this moment that she could not have anticipated, passing past Jake in a do-si-do, to breathlessly whisper to him,
"I love you.
Tobias wants us." Right after school, it's out. It's something big.
And that really just kills the mood.
It's true. That's not the vibe he wanted.
Nothing like when you do Contra versus square dancing, instead of being in a square and having like a couple people that you're getting used to, you go down this entire like line, like a buffet line of other humans.
It's Reagan, Oliver North.
Right. But so you're doing the dance, and occasionally someone will whisper to you what's going to happen when you die. Like what's going to happen to you when you die. And it just really kills the whole mood of the Contra dance. Like, it's just like, I mean, I knew it was flaming car wreckage. I knew, but come on.
It's
bud.
not the time. It's not the time.
Are you gonna swing me like you mean it? Or
just a landmine you have to dodge when you're square dancing.
So that's what the other person said, and they can't both be right.
So Jake has a bad feeling that whatever Tobias's news is, it's not good. And he keeps square dancing, and then flash, he fell.
Yes. I fell down and down through the green trees. A branch. I snatched it with my hand, swung and released, and I flew through the air and caught another branch. I wrapped my tail around the branch and turned to look back. Monkeys were swinging towards me through the high tree tops of the jungle. I was giddy. It was a rush. It was flash. And now we're back.
And Cassie's like still smiling at him and kind of giving him a look like, "You good?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Cool. So we were meeting with Tobias after school. Cool."
Yeah, and he described it as like a weird vision. It's just this moment where like suddenly he's somewhere else. Doesn't even seem to be in human morph.
Yeah,
there.
he seems to be a monkey.
And then just like that, he's back. It's like this weird episode comes over.
But they both feel completely real. He was there. He could feel it, smell it, see it, taste it, whatever.
And he has said, like, it really is like, and both moments have been real, is like a better sentence than these books often get, I feel like. Yeah. Something about that is like really compelling to me. Maybe it's not good writing, Ed, I don't know. But I like it. Something about it like hit for me. I was like, no, okay, both moments have been real. Like there wasn't a dreamlike quality to it. Yeah. It just landed for me.
It's one of those, like, I thought book 4 felt different when we got to it. So I feel like we just have like a great setup. Like there's a mystery and we just spend the whole book trying to figure out basically exactly what's happening here. So
yeah.
So it's 3:08 p.m. We're in chapter 2, and Marco and Jake are walking home. Like the whole gang knows that they have to meet up to find out what Tobias knows, but they're also trying to keep apart like they always do when they're in public places. So Marco and Jake are walking home together, and they're trying to like guess what Tobias wants to tell the group.
And then we get the backstory. You know, we get the whole book 1 backstory of Alfangor and all those things and how morphing works.
Yeah, we get a lot of revisionist history about whether or not the alien ship was scooting. No mention of Scoot here. Just an alien. It's like we all just grew up in the last couple books, I guess.
And as they're walking, Marco and Jake think they see Tobias coming in the sky. And this whole thing, like I was thinking as I was reading this, like usually we get that set up like, oh, someone wants us to meet at the barn. Cut to the barn. Everyone's there, and we immediately find out what the thing is.
Yeah, this is an
and it all just kind of feels delayed. There's like this feeling of anticipation, is what you said, Chris.
Absolutely. There's like a thing, I tweeted it out earlier, but there's a thing that happens in the Lemon of Troy episode of The Simpsons, which I think is like season 7 late on. And like right at the beginning of the episode, they're doing a thing, and then Nelson runs into the classroom and says, "You guys, something's happened. You gotta follow me." And everybody runs out of the classroom and starts following him. And they run a really long way, like through multiple parts of the town, and they're all winded. And Nelson stops at a water fountain to drink some water, and he's sipping the water. And Milhouse is like, "Wouldn't it be faster if you just told us what was happening?" And he's like, "I said it couldn't wait, and I stand by that." That's like, that's what this feels like.
Yeah. Because they're like, they think they see Tobias in the sky, and what do they say? They're not even sure it's him. Like they have to wait for the bird to get closer.
Yeah, because he can't hear them, and Tobias isn't thought speaking to them. So like,
yeah, and so he basically tells them, move quickly, go back home, like morph when you get a chance, and then we'll all meet. We don't hear where they're meeting, but Marco and Jake seem to know, and they go to Marco's house because his dad's not home.
Yeah.
Right.
They get up to they go up the carpeted stairs to Marco's room, which I thought that was going to come back at some point.
Why are they carpeted? Why? It's just leave that detail out, please. I don't need that detail.
And as you pointed out, Chris, when they get to Marco's room, they close the door, and Jake says, "Let's get this over with."
And I didn't say anything. I just put that like looking eyes emoji.
Yeah.
And then they morph.
Yeah.
They
morph into birds on Marco's floor, which Judgy Jake is back with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I forgot how Judgy Jake is,
Yeah.
but he's just like ripping on It's like, okay, so you hated the apartment he lived in when his dad was poor. You hated and now he's got too many socks. He had too few socks. Now they're just all over the floor.
All over the floor.
Yeah.
It's a dirty white sock. It's one sock on the floor.
Yeah, and Judgy Jake just won't let it go.
But then Marco accuses him of having old baby diapers lying around his room.
Yeah, some of his old baby. Yeah, he says to Jake, "You have some of your old baby diapers laying." And I'm like, I think they've degraded to nothing by now. Surely,
one would hope, and yet we know that Jake is a bit of a hoarder and has that piece of string from that thing, so he probably did keep a diaper.
Listen,
too.
I had Muppet Babies diapers, and they were pretty cool, and I may have hidden a few away, but they were clean. And I used them on my baby dolls.
Yes, until your baby doll soiled them, and then you
wasn't there that one doll that actually did
itself,
pee?
Your bed,
and Dad would never buy it for me because he said, "What is the point? Why would I buy something to bring into my house to make a mess?" All right, so we're morphing birds. Oh, we did glide right over something back in the description of Tobias. He says that Tobias is a friend, more than a friend.
There you go. Nice. When they're turning into the birds, he describes, he does as usual, and my lips turned into a rock hard beak. And then he's like, my bones made grinding squishy noises as my skull shrank. Yeah. That's fucked.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
They usually go right. They do birds so much they usually go right over it. But then they got a couple lines in like that.
Well, it's the first one for the book, so they gotta.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't even know what happens in this story. They morph for a while, then they fly out the window. They talk about how.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
How scary it is to auto-defenestrate oneself, regardless of being a bird.
I think you'll find that you can't auto-defenestrate anybody but yourself.
You're right. It was redundant. Yeah, it was redundant. You're right.
Jake promises to protect Marco, which I thought was kind of sweet.
He's cute, but Marco takes it as an insult.
Yeah.
But then they're like, where are we going? And he's like, Tobias is finally like, you're here we're going to a
Safeway. And they're like, why are we going to a grocery store? Marco makes a joke about to get more birdseed. Do you need birdseed? Because I put some out for you the other day. And then
gourmet birdseed.
Right. Tobias says, that's really funny, but it's not about birdseed. This grocery store seems to be having a sale. And then they go, And then and then he says, on high-ranking controllers. And they go,
Dun, dun.
oh. Yeah, exactly. And now we're in chapter 3 already.
Well,
These chapters, like, no pun intended, really do fly by. There's not a lot in them until there is. And even then, this book is so majoritatively action-oriented. Like, it's so... It's just shit happening. It's not a lot of talking about stuff.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Which ones did we get like that? Book 5 was like that. Book 7 was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Book 5 is Marco, the
Book
lobster
7 is
ants.
Rachel.
Book 7 is Rachel.
Unlike all of those books, which had like restful periods where
They had like pockets. Yeah. Like
this book was like we were in harm's way the entire book.
Yeah. We will actually take off. Like it's going to. It's just.
Except that it isn't. It lifts off and then it lifts off again. You get a soft launch and a hard launch.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, guys, can we hear this along? I've got a hard launch at 10 o'clock. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So they're flying. Tobias has to remind them to break it up because they still all start flying together.
Yes, yeah, and they still haven't learned how good the Yeerks are at bird watching. They need to you need to spread out. And you can't look that obvious.
We don't see them directly, but this is just planting a little seed. We will apparently get a controller who is a bird watcher later, or at least one who's paying attention to the birds.
Yeah, that's actually, I cannot wait to talk about that poor man at length.
Anyway.
We do actually see something weird in the parking lot, right?
Yes.
There were several long gouges torn in the blacktop, long straight gouges in perfect alignment pointing right toward the busted wall of the grocery store. A couple dozen workmen seemed to be on the ground, rushing around to erect a plywood wall to conceal the hole. Suddenly I realized, I guess Marco did too, which they don't actually say. Something hit the ground that was moving fast. It skidded across the grocery store parking lot, hit the wall, plowed inside, and started the fire. Wonderful detectives. They figured it out immediately.
Yeah, it's like a Sherlock moment. They walk in and it's like, well, he tripped over the ottoman and she was holding her letter opener at the wrong angle.
Case closed.
Case closed.
And Tobias says exactamundo. He's trying it out. I think it's going to stick. But
Yeah, I think so too.
We see the return of and the frequent repeat of Axeman in this book. I know we got some before, but
from both Marco and Tobias, we get consistent Axemanning. Yeah.
So here we are. We've made it to the grocery store. We're flying around up above, and Tobias is like, "Take a look at the guy who looks, like he's in charge," and it's Chapman.
Assistant Principal Chapman?
Assistant Principal Chapman.
He never stops working.
No.
Yeah, he never
this man has to moonlight as a construction worker.
Well, think about it. Most people only have 2 or 3 kids. He's got hundreds. But yeah, so they rightfully question the fact that their assistant principal has taken on an extracurricular manning. He's moonlighting at the fucking Safeway.
Yep.
Everyone else in town's not suspicious.
The teachers' union is apparently that weak at this point.
And then what's actually even weirder than Chapman being here is the 6 or 7 armed guards on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Machine guns,
with
right?
Machine guns just poking out of their jackets.
Which I don't think you can easily hide a machine gun.
I was picturing like big wartime coats, like World War II era, like sailors coats. You know what I'm talking about?
You know what they do say in a chapter before it's a rainy day.
That's way too styling. You mean you're talking about the long...
Yeah, the long boys.
Yeah, no. No, it's the 90s. It's got to be like some SWAT garb or something. That would be haunting. If they would look so out of place.
Maybe that's
if
why
they
I
were
pictured
wearing,
it that way.
It's very aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I get that. One thing that starts to hit here is we start to beat the drum of lots of new information, weird situation, and then Marco immediately turning to Jake and asking, "So what now, fearless leader?"
Yeah.
And that's a phrase that Marco has said before. But I looked it up and they basically, they had dropped it for a while and then they primed it in the last book because Marco and Jake's intro in book 10 described him as the fearless leader.
Right.
And so they're getting more consistent. Like, we have Rachel, almost always Xena warrior princess at this stage in the books. That wasn't always happening in the beginning, but now it's a thing.
No,
we have our branding.
Post book 7, we say it a lot.
Exactly. And so now we're getting this fearless leader drum, and that phrase gets said 4 times, and then the word leader comes up 19 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more than the surrounding books, which makes sense. I mean, and it comes up in Jake books more than other books.
Yeah.
But that anxiety of being in the driver's seat at this exact moment where we really don't have much information and everybody is all war horny to jump in and do something about it.
Yeah.
And he's got to make a call. Like, that tension.
Or they don't want to jump in and they want Jake to say it's okay not to jump in. Like, they want...
Yeah, war frigid.
Yes.
Yeah, war frigid. Yes.
War flaccid.
Yeah. I really like that about this book. It is about, like, Jake is a reluctant leader and he's anxious about leading, but he also knows, as he's going to say right here, he knows that even if he's anxious, he has to put up the front of being certain. And that, like, anxiety, like, it's one of our most anxious books, I think. And we always complained that we complained last 2, I think. Well, the end of book 6, book 6 was pretty interior, but this is a very interior book, and we get a lot of Jake reflecting, and also articulating how he's feeling. So Marco asks, "So what do we do, O fearless leader?" I'm just going to read these couple lines here.
Please.
He was asking me. The others like to act as if I'm in charge. I don't think of myself that way, not really, but whatever. If it makes them feel better to think I'm the leader, fine. It's just that when people treat you like a leader, you start acting like a leader. And like I said, that means making decisions, even when you're just guessing. And
what's the plan, Rachel asks. And then flash, right in my face, big glittering eyes, like the only things shining in the darkness, a muzzle open just enough to show long curved fangs, a face of an extremely big cat, mountain lion, leopard. In a second, it would lunge, open its jaws wide, and flash. And now he's back.
And they're like, yeah, what's the plan, man? What's the matter? We're asking the plan. Rachel's apparently annoyed that he's, like, daydreaming. But he's just like, what? That's happened twice now. It was in a jungle both times. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
it's definitely not the right time for this to be happening.
Interesting. Because this is happening for plot reasons, but it's kind of ends up being Jake cracking under pressure, starting to crack under pressure, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think another thing that's really interesting about Jake is, like, we talked about how he had main character syndrome. And yes, in the past, we've complained about him not being the most interior of characters. But, like, his books are about perception more than other books.
Yeah.
And his first book, book 1, he's constantly in disbelief of what is happening. He is constantly saying, I'm going to wake up and this will be a dream. He spends a shockingly long portion of the book thinking that and saying that over and over again. Book 6, he gets locked in, like, a battle of wits with a Yerk where he watches the Yerk perform himself to others. True. And then Axe performs him. That's when Axe starts doing that. And so the idea that he's now in a situation where he's unable to interact. He needs to trust his people, and his people are also imitating him back to him. Like, that's crazy. And then,
or they're in a script kind of with him, right?
Yeah. And then in this book, it's like all about this anxiety and this pressure, but like, and about how uncertainty and expectation come together when you're trying to appease those around you, and also to, like, get something done. And it's about burnout. I'm joking.
That classic millennial burnout.
I mean, it is about burnout, kind of.
It is about burnout, yeah. But,
and also, it gave me these flashes also. We're really going in on the flashes here, but they also kind of give me, like, PTSD vibes, like trauma. So Jake feels like he's going crazy, but he goes, I guess we take a better look. And they're going to try to get closer to the supermarket. Did they go down to the
they're going
woods
to try
here?
they're going to try and get into it, I think.
Yeah, they want to get in and get a look. And Rachel immediately is like, whatever we're doing, I'm down. And Marco's like, why do I get scared when I hear you say that? And she responds by calling him a weenie.
She speculates that it's because he might be a weenie.
Might be a weenie.
Weenie
Hut Juniors.
Verb choice.
Super Weenie Hut Juniors.
Chapter 4.
They decide to do more reconnaissance and come back later.
That very day.
Yeah, that very
night.
day. It was 3:51, and now we're jumping ahead to 4:40. And
on chapter 4.
I can't find on the page where they say when they're coming back.
3 hours from now, I think. The supermarket is right next to a highway, which is next to some woods. And they land in the woods, and that's where they're going to morph later. That's where they demorph now because they're running out of time in bird morph, I think.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes, they decide to come back at night.
They have to meet up with Axe and tell Axe what's going on.
Oh, he shows up. Yes,
Yeah.
he shows up in the woods.
They do an interesting thing real quick here. I just noticed this, but they talk about when they were talking about taking off being scary and flying being scary in the beginning, but landing is actually way harder.
Yeah.
And I really thought that would be Chekhov's landing the bug fighter.
Well, it kind of is, actually. They never call back to it. But Jake does have trouble landing later, and that ends up linking with him having trouble landing in the other.
That's true.
And also
That's
there's
true.
2 ships crash land in this.
Yeah,
too.
you're totally right. I'm forgetting about the first crash landing.
Axe does the thing he's been doing every book where he has a dramatic entrance.
Just the last couple books, I feel like, though, he jumps over people.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while now where he has like an exciting entrance to the scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get a long description of Axe.
Yeah.
It's really long. It's really long.
And the whole time, they're just waiting to get to the tail.
It might be worth reading.
It's too long. It's too long.
Okay, what if we speed read it?
Okay.
Eddie, what if you while I'm reading it, what if you say the notes aloud that so I'll read it, but don't say like it's in the notes. Just react as though. So blah, blah, blah. So we're talking about Andalites. His body is sort of like a strong, pale blue and tan deer, but where the deer would have a neck, Axe has a somewhat human upper body. It looks like a chest and shoulders of a boy. He has 2 weak-looking arms and a few too many fingers.
And then there's the tail.
His head is where you'd expect to find it, but it's missing one very major ingredient, a mouth.
But don't even get me started on the tail.
Andalites eat by absorbing plants through their hollow hooves, and they communicate through thought speak. Axe has 3 small slits for a nose and 2 big almond-shaped eyes. He also has 2 other eyes. Those are mounted on top of his head on short stalks. These 2 eyes can move separately in any direction. It's distracting till you get used to it.
And even when you get used to it, though, you'll never get used to the tail.
Axe may look at you with his 2 main eyes, and he may look at you with both stalk eyes, or 1 stalk eye, or in a combination of his 2 main eyes and 1 stalk eye. To summarize, it is very strange making eye contact with an Andalite.
The tail! Tell me about that wicked tail!
And last, but definitely not least, there's the tail.
Yeah!
It's like a scorpion's tail, cocked up.
Wow!
so that the deadly sharp blade on the end sort of hovers above Axe's shoulder. The tail is fast, very fast, as in you're bleeding and wondering why you can only count to 4 on your fingers before you even see it move. Fast, accurate, and very good to have on your side of a fight. It's a really long description.
It is, and we don't need
Quite
it.
long.
We've known
we
Axe
know
for
this.
a while.
But what blows my mind is how much I actually, when I was reading it and reading your notes, I thought you were blowing out of proportion the build up to the tail. And then it's
No, they do it
it's
every
totally
time.
fucking, I know they do it every time, but I was like, surely not again in book 11.
And it's always and last, but definitely not least.
Yeah.
The tail.
Give it up for the tail, everybody.
Okay,
man.
so they catch Axe up on what's going on.
Axe will do whatever Prince Jake wants.
Yeah, yes.
Marco blushed when you said that, right.
So basically, they're we have to. The closest place to morph, which is these woods that are on the other side of the highway, is a long way away. So they have to clear the street, the busy street, 4 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, they're instead of the woods, they're going to do a boarded up motel.
Yeah.
It's classier.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that. Why not use the board of that motel?
No one will see us there. It's not like people are doing questionable things there.
It's not like the entire homeless community lives there.
Right. Jake already got murdered.
It's not like it's a veritable shanty Hooverville.
Yeah, we'd like to thank you, Herbert Hoover, for really showing us the way. Sorry.
The way.
But basically, they decide that they're going to morph flies, right? Because Cassie reasons that grocery store must be full of food and that food has to be rotting, and flies, like, we won't need sight if we do this at night, if we can just follow the scent of rotting food. And that's how we get to that's how we find our way to the supermarket, right? That's basic.
But Tobias really wants to help.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, you've helped enough, Tobias.
And that is basically what Cassie says, but she tries to say it nicely.
Tobias gets a lot this book.
He does end up getting
true.
a lot this book. It's a shame it never happens.
Yeah. And there's just like, he's frustrated. He wants to do more. I feel like that came up in at least book 10 or book 9. One of them, like, it feels like
Megamorphs.
Yes, definitely Megamorphs.
Yeah, he slept through the entire thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cassie reassures Tobias so he's saying, like, he just wants to help even a little, and Cassie's like, the only reason we know about this is because of you discovered it, you showed it to us, the least we can do is take the next step. And Jake observes Cassie is so good at fixing hurt feelings.
Yeah,
that is really true. I do want to say, did anybody else think they were going to pick another animal? Did anybody else have flashbacks to a certain arcade video game where they have to cross a busy street and the best way to do it is to be a frog?
That would have been good.
I'm just saying.
Very dangerous. I think they learned not to do that because of the video game.
Marco just should have made a Frogger.
Yes, that's true. So they say, yes, flies it is. Everyone go home. We meet behind the motel in approximately 3 hours, around 7:45 or so. And then they break, right?
Yeah.
But but they can tell that Jake is trying to be like upbeat and positive about this.
Yeah, Marco calls him out on it, and he says that he can tell because Jake gave him his patented no sweat grin.
Yeah.
Which, are we all in agreement that this is that slogan?
Yes, it's all he knows.
Yeah, no, because if he moved any faster, he'd get sweaty.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.